Hey everybody, how are you guys doing today? Happy Mother's Day. I hope you guys are only temporarily dropping in and then heading off to spoil your mothers. If you guys are, if you're lucky enough to still have your mom around, make sure you go and spoil her today. This is the reason why we're all here, our moms. And if you don't have your mom around anymore, then just, take a moment to send some gratitude out into the universe for having a great mom while she was with you. I think that's the most important thing we can do today. So can you guys hear me okay? Let me know if you guys can hear me and if you guys can see me, and we'll get the show started. Wow, you guys are actively chatting in the chat section even before I came online, which is great to see. And hopefully you guys will stick around for the entire show. So for those of you who are dropping in for the first time, I want to say welcome. Our Addicted to Gear show, and I say our Addicted to Gear show, is a platform where we can all get a chance to talk and be heard. And this is why we do this on a weekly basis. If you're suffering from gear addiction like I am, then you know what to do. Just tune in on Sundays and you have an opportunity to participate in a great active chat based on guitars and gear. And you have an opportunity to not only ask questions, but also provide comments for everybody. So if you're looking at something new, need advice, we are always willing to help. So first of all, again, I hope you guys are going to be spoiling your moms today. I'm going to be doing the same for my wife today because, the kids want to spoil her today. So that's what we're going to be doing later on. I suggest you guys do the same. Take a moment, doesn't hurt to tell your mom that you love her and be a good son or daughter. Good karma goes a long way, guys. So welcome to everybody that's already here today. I think you guys are already raring to go from what I could see in the chat here. So I want to take a moment and say hello. And also, if you have any comments or questions, please don't lurk. Just go ahead and start asking your questions. We'll jump right in and actively participate in some interesting chat here. Music and Gear was here early this morning, I think. And I think there was a little discussion on Seymour Duncan JB pickups. Eric65 is here. I think Eric is new. I don't remember seeing Eric around before. So welcome, Eric, if you're new. Nice to see you here. Cushman, a regular participant in the live chat, is here as well. Nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. And Ken is here too. Ken also is a newish name. I think you may have dropped in before. Paul is here as well. Paul says, I have some good sources in banking/stocks. They all told me retail, as in our case, music are all doing very poor sales. So expect prices not to just drop, but drop as much as 25%. Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's sad news that they're not doing well. But I think they were doing extremely well during COVID. So perhaps this is just the adjustment that's happening. Only time will tell. Profile Productions, how are you doing? Wayne and Ken is here as well. Thank you, Ken. Ken says Tony's the best. The best at what, Ken? Well, it's great to see everybody here. And it's great to see that you guys are tuning in time and time again. We have some great stuff to talk about today. It's not all going to be fun and games. I'm going to probably even give you guys some homework later on. So stay tuned for that. Apparently the ads are at it again, right? SkimRush is saying all I'm getting is ads. Why is that? I hate when YouTube does this. It's very disturbing, you know? It's like you go in and you're starting to watch a video, meditation video or something, and you're in it, you're in the flow, and then bam, you get an ad, It's extremely disruptive. I can't stand that. Patrick is here, and he says he's going to the Drummondville Guitar Expo today. Yes, I saw that, Patrick. I was considering going myself, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I have just too many things planned today already as it is. But let me know how it went. Let me know how it turned out. It's nice to see that there are some guitar expos happening closer to home here. We don't get that very many. Scott Anthony 1 says, good morning, Tony. Good to see you. Good to see you too, man. Thank you for joining in. Von Schlepp, good morning from Alaska. Hey, since you're in Alaska, here's a question for you. Who saw those amazing northern lights that happened over, I think it was Friday night? Any of you guys see that in your neck of the woods? I didn't even know it was happening. I missed the entire thing. Apparently, it was spectacular. And this is not something we get to see, in my geographical location usually. You got to go way up north, to the Borealis or something like that to be able to see these northern lights. But if you're from Alaska, like Von Schlemp is, maybe you see these all the time. Gunnified says, hey fellas, first time I've been able to catch the live stream. Well, welcome. Thank you. Hopefully it's not the last. Yes, Shane, I'm going to give you homework today. We're going to be doing some work later on, so stay tuned for that. Von Schlemp says, I brought my pencil. Good, good. I'm happy. You came prepared. And Vaughn says he sees them all the time. Lucky man. I would have really liked to see those, but I didn't get a chance to. And I just, I was totally oblivious to the whole thing. Woke up the next day and, my Facebook feed was full of people posting pictures and videos. And I'm like, where did these guys go to see these beautiful lights? I didn't realize it was happening here. Anyways, hopefully next time. I don't know how often these things happen. It's the first time I ever hear of it, so. Eddie says, guys, ever have a nice guitar that you just can't get dialed in and you want to throw out the window? Yes, I have had that experience, Eddie. Eddie, does that guitar happen to have a Floyd Rose on it by any chance? Presley says he had them in California. Yeah, apparently, Presley, they happen in various locations around the US and Canada. So it was something that happened... there was a wide spectrum of places that were able to see these lights. I'm just a little bit miffed I didn't get a chance to see them. I guess you had to be in a location that was pretty dark. If you're in the city somewhere and you have a lot of light, you probably didn't get an opportunity to see them very much. Gunnified said, always wondered what happened to part 2 of the PRS SC245 video. Which part are you referring to? Not really sure which one you mean. Shane says, what do you think of the crazy new guitar I got, Tony? What does it look like? Shane, I think it's a really cool looking guitar. It's kind of unique. You know, I haven't really seen a guitar like that before. And like I mentioned in my comment, I don't know if you saw it. I said it kind of reminds me of the Prince guitar. Not that it's exactly like the Prince guitar at all. In fact, it's very different, but it just reminds me of that style of guitar because it's a little bit like a little artsy, you know? Very cool, very unique. How do you like it? Did you play it already, or how does it stack up to the rest of the herd? So Surferby says next time we get another cosmic storm. Was it actually caused by that? Probably was, wasn't it? The magnetic storm. Steven says if the sky is clear, you'll see them tonight too. Really? I don't know if we're going to get a clear night tonight. We had a little bit of rain. It was a little overcast. Well, maybe I'll take a look. Although I do have to get up early tomorrow, so I don't know how late I'm going to have to stay up to see them. Gene says, I smoke Northern Lights. Hey, Saint Brando, nice to see you, buddy. So did you guys notice the little image of Frank Zappa that I put there as we started the show? I put that up because it was a very nice photo of Frank. I rarely see a photo of Frank smiling, and even more rare, a picture of him that looks like he's smiling authentically, you know? So here you see Frank and the Mothers of Invention, and of course, little tongue-in-cheek, happy Mother's Day wish there. So I just wanted to share that. I'm a big Frank Zappa fan. I like Frank. A lot of people don't. A lot of people can't understand the music, but I appreciate it for what it is. Scott Anthony 1 says, Tony, what are your thoughts on vintage guitars? Would you consider doing a video about that? Yeah, I would. I don't have a lot of vintage guitars because I don't have, I mean, it depends how old you consider a guitar to be before it becomes vintage in your opinion. But I don't have a lot of like very expensive vintage gear. The reason for that is, number one, it's very expensive. You guys already know that. If you've already tried to buy anything that's old, you know how expensive things could be as soon as they become labeled vintage. And it's getting harder and harder to find good vintage gear and affordable. And this is why everybody's switching over to stuff like the custom shop, you know, historic, aged Murphy Labs, you know, guitars and whatnot. Because, you know, they kind of mimic that look and feel of the vintage guitars without necessarily having the full price tag, although they are pretty expensive. But honestly, I'm not a big fan of the custom shop stuff because I do feel like you're paying premium money for basically a run-of-the-mill, let's say a guitar that's been made CNC like all the other ones, and, you know, just given the little mojo treatment. So you pay a lot for that mojo treatment, you know. I don't know, I would rather save my money and buy an authentic vintage guitar if I found one that I really liked. But they're just too darn expensive, unfortunately. But hey, if anybody wants to send me a vintage guitar to review, I'd be happy to do that. You know, I don't think a lot of people will be willing to part with their vintage gear that easily, though. You know, and send it somewhere hoping to get it back in one piece. Joey Duno says that Sir is very, very tasty. Thank you, man. This is yeah, this is standard Pro Sir guitar made in the USA. Yeah, it's a very tasty guitar that I don't actually take full advantage of, unfortunately, but it's a great guitar. Fantastic necks on these guitars. Like I always say, if Sir would ever make an overseas model, like, similar to what PRS is doing with the Silver Sky. If they would do that, and they would put the same profile neck on those guitars, they would sell like hotcakes, because these necks are amazing, so nice. And if they would be affordable, I'd buy a bunch of them. I really would. Hey Jean-Pierre, nice to see you, man. Jean-Pierre says, I only listen to Zappa music with some weed in my brain. Otherwise, I don't get it. Yeah, it definitely helps, I think. Yeah, and Wayne's absolutely right. Frank Zappa did. He was a big, I guess, modder back in the day, because he would definitely mod the heck out of all of his instruments. Some of his instruments, I don't even know how they were even wired up to work, because they were so complicated. He was always on the search for new sounds, and you can tell by his guitars. Davis says, listen to Frank Zappa's Watermelon and Easter Hay. Awesome, awesome guitar composition. He's got a lot of great stuff. I still love the Joe's Garage albums. Great albums that you can listen to from beginning to end, and it tells a story, and each song is a continuation of that story. It's funny. It's funny, and just such tasty guitar chops in there. Awesome drum parts. I mean, all of the musicians that Frank played with over the years were amazing. So Titties and Beer is the best Frank Zappa song. Yeah, it's a well-known one, that's for sure. So Peter England says, I got a pre-loved, I like that term, pre-loved, John 5 custom shop Telecaster hardtail with the 3 tuners, a side headstock, beautiful, looking for a Bigsby version, any in Australia? That's a good question. Maybe somebody from Australia can check for you. Patrick bought a Tonex recently. I think you mentioned that last week, Patrick. But it's still in the box. No time to play. That sounds like a Guess Who. No time left to play. Is it a Guess Who? Gotta stay hydrated. Patrick, you gotta make time to play, man. What's the point of buying gear if you can't play it? At least take it out of the box. Take it for a spin. Do something. Send it to me. I'll try it out for you, then I'll send it back. How's that? I'll tell you. I'll tell you if it's good. MFN says, hi Tony. Have a Gator 8 Power Cube. Power works to 6 of 8, but my DD200 and Boss Looper aren't getting power despite charging plugs. They're fine plugged into the wall. Thoughts? The only thing I can think of is perhaps the DD200 and Looper require a little bit more power. Did you check to make sure that the power being furnished by your Power Cube is adequate for those pedals? I know that not all pedals require the same amount of power going through, and sometimes Looper pedals can be finicky. I'd start with that, making sure that that works. Time Surfing Alien says, I'm real happy with the $150 Ivy I just got. Needed a little oil on the fretboard and adjusted the string height. That's beautiful, man. If you can get pleasure out of playing a $150 guitar, you know, that's fantastic. You can spend the rest of your money on other stuff. Cool Tune says, got my SV20H. Big surprise. Power source was European. 220 volts. Never the least. Sound awesome. Loving it so far. Well, yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Cool Tunes, you did say you ordered that from Europe, didn't you? I automatically assumed you were in Europe. Otherwise, I would have told you, yeah, if you're buying a European model, then the power voltage is not going to be the same. So now what are you doing? How are you actually running that? Is it, I mean, you got to be careful if you're not running it on the proper power. You might damage it, right? Vince says, even if vintage gear was better, which it isn't, how could it be more than a percent or 2 or 3? Vintage gear is for suckers, but that is the Webster's definition of guitarists. Ooh, Vince, what happened, man? Did you get up on the wrong side of the bed this morning? First of all, I don't disagree with you completely, because I do think that there's a lot of vintage gear that is not that great. Honestly, like a lot of people do trip on the notion that they're buying a vintage instrument just with the idea that for some reason the vintage instruments were blessed with mojo and all of them are great, which I don't think is true. I think the truth is that a lot of vintage gear sucks, but there are some good ones out there, just like the new ones, you know. I do think that the whole mechanism of building a guitar today is more precise, more repeatable. Remember, in the old days, they were making these guitars by hand. So there was a lot of variables, you know, whether the guy was on the ball that day, maybe he had a hangover, you know, maybe it was the last guitar of his shift on a Friday afternoon and he was dying to get out of there, you know, and didn't put the love and attention that was required. But today, most of the guitars are largely being made with CNC machines, which are basically carbon copies. So the actual, you know, shaping of the guitars, milling of the guitars and whatnot, really, you know, is 100% dead on. The variables will come in the finishing, in the setup. Perhaps the materials being used would change. But, you know, I do think that, you know, if you take 10 guitars off the wall, which are brand new guitars, compared to 10 guitars that would be made back in the day, there would be a lot more variation in the older guitars than you would see today. Joey Don't Know says, I finally found a PRS SC250 after years of looking. So you grabbed it, I hope, Joey. Did you bring that baby home? That's what I want to know. I don't know why Sir hasn't actually thought about doing that. It's not an easy feat. I mean, you do have to have connections. You do have to have big orders. You do have to have infrastructure. You know, Sir guitars are not in all the stores. A lot of stores don't carry Sir guitars. A lot of the regular stores tend to carry PRS, Fender, Gibson, Ibanez, you know, the run-of-the-mill brands. But Sir's not one of them. So I think we forget like how fragile it is to run a company like that. And I think that they don't necessarily want to get into that just yet. Maybe one day. Surferby says, Dweezil Zappa is an incredible guitar player. I agree with you. I saw Zappa play Zappa a few times. Beautiful show. Awesome musicians. I remember for one of the shows, I was sitting maybe not even 10 feet away, you know, from Dweezil. He was playing a beautiful SG guitar, fantastic sound, small venue. They did a fantastic job. I mean, I'm really proud of Dweezil in terms of picking up the flag and continuing in his father's footsteps. Apparently, there's been a lot of issues with the family, a lot of squabbles, and at one point he was even, I think he was being sued or something for using the Zappa name, even though he's Frank Zappa's son. So it gets, the whole thing when you're famous gets very murky and it tears families apart, which is unfortunate. But he's still doing it, and it's a struggle. He's indicated many times that keeping the show on the road is not easy. We automatically think that if you're a famous person, famous name, you're automatically making money if you're touring, which is not true. In actual fact, many of the touring artists today will only start making money at the tail end of the tour, believe it or not. So they're almost like footing the bill to get the show on the road, hoping that they're going to at least break even or make some money by the end of the show. People don't realize that. So, they put a lot of sweat and tears in the art that they create. Does Shure advertise? If they do, not much. I don't think they actually need to advertise all that much, because I think, people who are fans pay attention to the new stuff coming out. And advertising is expensive. Davis says, one of my first guitars I bought is now considered vintage. Just being played in makes it better. There's good and bad in modern and vintage. Yeah, exactly, I don't think you can paint all the vintage guitars with one brush, saying that they're all great. I'm sure there's some duds in the bunch. So Joey Dono says, plays like an absolute dream. You can't find them anywhere, at least here in the UK. Well, congratulations, Joey. I'm happy that you found the one. Hopefully you will keep that guitar for a long time. We're all tempted to say that that's it, I'm done. No more guitars. But I don't think that's true. I think we're just fooling ourselves when we say that. I've been there many times, and I can't help but giggle a little bit when somebody brings that up and says the same thing, because I know it's just temporary. Time Surfing Alien says, I'll buy more from Ivy. You see? So he's found a cool guitar and he's willing to buy more. So that's the cool thing about buying inexpensive guitars. You can buy more. You don't feel guilty. Gene says, man, I have a serious case of the munchies already. Wolfed down mini donuts and cheese and crackers. Looking around for more. Take it easy, Gene. Take it easy. Think of the arteries. Grab a carrot. A cracker. Shane says there's a few crooks in the extended Zappa family. Shane, we all have crooks in our families. Who are we kidding? So, Steven says, Callie, you need to surround yourself with healthy snacks before puffing. It helps. It works. Yeah, just chop those carrots and celery before you actually start toking, and when you get the munchies, you're all set up. Vinny's World says a lot of Sir Tom Anderson, James Taylors get bought up by session players, closet collectors. They have kind of an inner circle type thing. Yeah, I think so. I think there are some connoisseurs of these brands that tend to snag them up when they show up on the used market. They don't frequently show up on the used market, to be honest. When they do, they're still pretty expensive. Vox says, I'm never buying another pedal. I say that and fail all the time. I've been there too. Joey says, I'm definitely not letting this one go. I don't know if I'll buy more, but for now, I'm super happy. I like the for now. Got the binding, the adjustable bridge. It's a beast. Well, congratulations, dude. I'm really happy for you, man. You know, life is short. You got to buy what you want when you want it. If it comes by and you don't buy it, you're just going to regret it and kick yourself for a long time. So I'm glad you pulled the trigger on that one. Ian's Guitar Shack says, I'm trying to stop buying guitars, but I keep eyeballing a Jackson Dinky. So grab it, dude. You know, at the end of the day, guys, I think it's pretty obvious that even if you buy a guitar that you're on the fence about and you don't like it, no big deal, man. You can flip it. You're not going to lose much money off of it. You can probably get, you know, all your money back these days if it's in good condition and brand new. I don't see why not. You know, if you're buying it used to begin with, you're not going to lose out. If you're buying brand new right off the shelf, yeah, and you sell it after a week or two that you know you figure out you don't like it, you're going to lose some. But generally, if you're smart about it, you don't lose much. Joey says, plus I got it at a steal, $1,300. You can barely buy some import guitars for that now. Dude, I can't believe you got it for that kind of money. $1,300? That is a steal, man. Why so low? The guy selling it must have been pretty desperate. Well, that's amazing, man. If you got it for $1,300, double congratulations. You definitely got a winning deal there. You can easily sell that guitar eventually and make all that money back and more. Presley says, my longtime neighbor Merle Saunders, whose dad was famous for playing in the Grateful Dead, was Frank Zappa's guitar tech for many years. It was cool always hearing the awesome stories he had, and I'm sure he had quite a few stories, Presley. I can only imagine the debauchery that was going on back in the day when these guys were on tour. I know that Frank Zappa was avidly against drugs in his band, but I don't know about all the other stuff. Joey Don't Know says, you changed the pickups in your Sir, didn't you, Tony? I can't tell a lie. Yes, I did. I still have the original pickguard. The original pickguard came with a humbucker and 2 single coils. And I don't really like the way humbuckers and single coils play in the same guitar all that much. So I decided to go humbucker. Yeah. You caught me, Joey. I'm sure many of you out there are not surprised that I said that. Paul's right. Sir is a relatively small company still. And they're building their guitars with love. That's why they're pretty expensive. He says they're not interested in getting bigger just to get bigger. They have virtually no turnover and are run like family. That's the beauty of a small company. You know, you put your heart into it, and I know John definitely does. As I mentioned a couple of times on the show, at one point with this guitar, because the guitar is so stable, honestly, like I pulled it out of the case now today for the first time in a while, the guitar was basically still in tune. The neck relief is exactly where I left it. It hasn't budged. So I haven't really had the need to adjust the truss rod on this very much since I got it, actually. And at one point, I don't know why, I needed to adjust it just slightly, and it was the nut seemed to be seized because I hadn't actually touched it in years. And I was scared that I was going to strip the nut or break the truss rod. So at one point I contacted Sir, and by email, guess who answered me? John Sir. Like, I was totally blown away by the fact that he's answering, tech support emails. Like, you're never gonna see that at Gibson. You're never gonna see that at Fender or any other companies. But John answered my email promptly, and I was blown away by the answer. And he told me, don't worry. He's like, it'll sometimes happen that truss rods, if you haven't adjusted them, get seized up. It's just the two metals kind of, reacting with one another. And he's like, crank the shit out of it. Don't worry. It's not going to break. And he's like, if you're worried, don't be. If you break it, he's like, those necks are guaranteed for life. So I was blown away by that. Guaranteed for life. And I even told him, I go, I didn't buy this guitar brand new. I bought this guitar secondhand from someone else. And he's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, the necks are guaranteed for life. So he's like, you break it, send it to me. We'll send you another one. So that's what I did. I cranked the shit out of it. Didn't break. It did do that thing which scared the scared the crap out of me, because I thought I did break the truss rod, but it didn't. It just cranked loose, and everything is good to go. I put a drop of oil in there just to make sure it would still be able to move when I needed to adjust it, and haven't had any issues since. So just to say, you spend a lot of money on these guitars, but you get the customer service. And I got the same deal from Friedman. Dave Friedman, email. He answers a lot of his emails. He answered me quite a few times, and I recently chatted with him as well. Brings me to the next topic. The Friedman Plex is finally starting to be seen out in the wild. So I don't know if you know about this Friedman amplifier yet, but it was showcased at NAMM, and I'm raving about it because I just have such a hard-on for this amplifier. I love the Friedman amps, and this one has been on my radar since I learned about it. And I contacted Dave immediately after it was announced. He said, you're gonna have to wait a couple of months till we build them. And he's like, mid-May should be happening. And he was absolutely right, because I'm starting to see them out in the wild. I'm starting to see people talking about them now. I have yet to see a video review on, an off-the-line amplifier. I've seen them at NAMM, the teaser videos. We've all seen those. But I haven't seen anybody reviewing one that they purchased. And I'm dying to see one, because, the NAMM videos were pretty much teasers. And, they caught my attention, but you really can't get a good idea of what the amplifier can do completely from those videos. The volume is not good, the recording is not good, and they don't play it like you'd be playing it at home, and Dave, when he often does these NAMM shows, he plays them through other things. Like, he's got routing already with delay and all kinds of stuff, so he tweaks it to make it sound good. But if you're playing that amplifier at home, it's going to sound pretty different. And that's what I want to hear, because I'm ready to pull the trigger on that amp. I just want to see one or two, real world videos first, just to put the final stamp on it before I send in my check to Dave. So yeah, Paul says the same thing. Dave answers questions too. If he doesn't know, he gets back to you, usually the same day. Mark also has the same experience, where he says Dave answers his emails. I was blown away by that. Again, you're never going to get that from Marshall or Fender or any of the other amp companies like PRS. And some amp companies, it even sounds like you're bothering them when you contact them for whatever reason. Eaglehead says, been playing my new Gibson Theodore Cherry Red The one I scored a $300 discount, no buyer's remorse at all. It's awesome and inspirational. It even makes my Gibson 2015 SG sound better. Well, again, a great discount. Happy that you're happy. Always great to be able to land on gear that you enjoy thoroughly. So congratulations on that. Is anybody else, just out of curiosity, is anybody else here perhaps considering getting that new Friedman Plex? Or am I the only one in the bunch so far? Time Surfing Alien says some PRS guitars are made by Cort. According to my research, some Fenders among others. I think Cort makes a lot of guitars, the OEM, a lot of guitars for a lot of different other companies. And they make pretty solid guitars. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. I don't know if that's changed over time and if Cort is still making the guitars for PRS. They may have changed, I'm not really sure. Paul likes the Theodore, says it sounds like, the Theodore sounds SG-like, but is easily as fat sounding as the Les Paul. On a pension, or I'd buy one. Vinny says PRS I think does a pretty good job. They answered my questions on a discontinued amp that needed servicing and helped me quite a bit. Well, that's good to hear. I contacted Marshall about my SV20. Was looking for a place to bring it in to get it serviced. And, you know, they answered my question. It's not their fault, though. There's not a lot of areas close to me. A lot of places I can bring the Marshall in. So it's going to be a little bit of a hassle to get it fixed. But I'll see. I have an amp guy that I trust as well. So if worse comes to worse, I'll bring it to him. And he's a solid dude. I'm sure he'll be able to fix it as well. Ian's Guitar Shack says, I only have a Friedman pedal, the ODBE Deluxe. I hear you, Paul. I understand, man. It sucks. It sucks when you can't just go out and buy what you want. I get it. Been there. So, just not to get off topic, but I did have a poll question out. So I hope you guys answered that poll question or saw that poll question. We'll answer it towards the end of the show like we normally do. And the poll question was, what is the maximum wattage amplifier you would consider buying today? Since we're talking about Friedman amps and whatnot. Oh man, I dropped my pick. I hate when that happens. And the reason why I'm asking that question ties into the title of today's video. Are high wattage, and not high watt, but high wattage amplifiers dead? Because I have a feeling that a lot of people are not necessarily looking for higher wattage amps anymore. I think the technology's gotten better in the sense that a lot of people will just mic up a lower wattage amplifier if they're playing somewhere. And they don't need the big Marshall stacks anymore, the 100-watt heads. So I wanted to get a feel on that, just a pulse on what you guys think. So I put out a poll question for you guys to answer. We'll take a look at that because I have my suspicions that, you know, a lot of people are not necessarily looking for that much anymore. If people are still looking for like a 100-watt amp, they'll probably buy it if it has a half power switch. Same goes for a 50-watt amp. I think if it has a half power switch, or you know, can go down to 5 watts or whatever, they'll probably buy it. But I don't think that switch is going to get off the low power mode very often. I've had very, very loud amplifiers in the past, 100-watt amplifiers. I had a JCM 800 at one point, which was extremely loud. Plexis and whatnot, and even at 50 watts. I don't think I've ever had a 100-watt amplifier. I think the max for me was about 50. And they were super loud, super loud. Even my very old, I guess you can call that amp vintage now, I had a Mesa Boogie Mark III. That thing was so loud, man, so loud. It shook, it shook the windows when I played that thing. I know a lot of people had the high watt amps back in the day. Those were pretty loud and they stayed clean too. They had 100-watt, 150-watt versions. Monster amplifiers, but just overkill for what you need today. Eddie says my PV5150 60-watt combo makes my ears bleed. I think if you're playing a show, even if you're playing like a stadium these days, most of the time the sound guy is just gonna mic up your amp. Unless you're AC/DC, Angus likes to crank it. There's not that many people that are still doing that. And even if they are cranking the amps, the amps are off stage. They're buried in the back somewhere. And they're being mic'd up when they're cranked and being pushed through the PAs. Presley says, Tony, are you telling us you put out your poll to get a feel? Yes, Presley, I am saying that. Unfortunately. Oh, man. Didn't Page have a Marshall modded to 300 watts? I'm not really sure. Maybe he did. I wouldn't be surprised. Back in the day, maybe he did. Eddie says, I gigged for 2 years with a JCM 50 watt with a 412 cabinet. It was freaking loud. Yeah, man. If you still have your hearing after that, Eddie, you did good, because it doesn't take much. I tell you that. You got to protect your hearing for sure if you're playing that kind of power. So anyways, we'll get to the poll question in a little bit. Gives you time to think about it and maybe answer the poll while we're here. Ian says Fender Deluxe Reverb is only 22 watts and is loud enough for most gigs. You're right. It is. They have the Fender Twins, which are ear-splittingly loud if you need more juice than the Deluxe. But yeah, the Deluxe will work perfectly fine in most scenarios. Paul says, I had a 100-watt Plexi Super Lead in the UK for 3 months. I rented it, so I bought a JMP50 half stack. You must have had great tone, though. Like, I'm sure it was super loud, Paul, but I'm sure you had fantastic tone. Randy says, my 60-watt Fender Supersonic is too much for me at times. Yeah, I didn't buy the 60-watt version when it was out, because I do have a Supersonic too, but I have the 22-watt version. The 60-watt version was really loud. Sounded great, but it was just like I would probably not need that much power. Nowadays, Presley says, I always go direct to my board with my fly rig, no amp. A lot of people are doing that. Yeah, a lot of people are just going direct, or they're using modelers. I guess you have a little bit more control that way. Scott Anthony 1 says we used 50-watt Marshall JCM 800s back in the day. In the old band I was in, they were great for that, but now I just use small combo amps for everything. Yeah, the JCM 800 I had too was also 50 watts, and it was great. It sounded glorious, but it was overkill. Music and Gear says use the PV Butcher 120 watt head for 2 years. Just too much power. Been using 50 watt for 30 years. I think 50 is kind of the sweet spot. You know, you can dial it down, you can control it, you can use an attenuator. It's a little bit more manageable than 100 watts for sure. And actually, talking about that, I did see a review recently on something new, which was called the Simplifier X. Have you guys seen this? The Simplifier X, it's basically a 0 watt, they call it a 0 watt stereo dual amplifier. I don't know how it could be 0 watts, but anyways, here I'll share the screen with you. Hope you guys can see the screen today. We never know. Do you guys see this? Just gonna like make it a little smaller here so I can see it. So do you guys see this on my screen? I'm sharing my my screen right now. Yes? No? Anybody here? Anyways, the Simplifier X is a new device that they came out with. And it looks pretty cool. I don't know how well it works, and I haven't tried it. But basically, it's a 0 watt reverb stereo dual amplifier. It's got a whole bunch of knobs and switches on it. And basically, it acts like an amp without being an amp. And if you can catch some reviews on it, it sounds pretty good. Now, I don't know how much this thing retails for, but from what I hear, it sounds pretty good, and it also has the feel, apparently, of an amp. Take that with a grain of salt. So you can see it's a true stereo, 2 independent input, 3 different useful modes, no extra Y cables needed, dual FX sends and returns, through jack for dedicated dry amp signal path, 1/4 inch outputs with cab sim bypass, 2 XLR DI outputs, selectable aux input for silent practice through headphones only, or sending your auxiliary signal straight to PA using the XLR outputs. So, you know, they're coming out with cool stuff. It does kind of look like a Tascam, Eric. It does. Music and Gear says the Simplifier X is great. This is a 2nd gen model. I haven't tried the 1st gen model, but this one seems to be getting some interesting feedback. So just wanted to share that with you guys and see what you guys, if maybe you'd be interested in trying one of those. There's options today, guys. That's the beauty of it. I mean, full-blown amp is great, but it's not the only option. There's a lot of other things out there. By the way, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Alex Van Halen's birthday was just, I think yesterday or a day or two ago, if I'm not mistaken. The man turned 71 years old. 71! When did that happen? When did Alex Van Halen turn 71, guys? I'm freaking out here a little bit. So I kind of understand, you know, the whole thing about, you know, him maybe not wanting to do a tour to celebrate his brother, and you know, the whole thing. You know, maybe he's happy just living his life quietly now. I mean, look, if I was 71 years old, I probably wouldn't want to go on tour either. I mean, I got aches and pains today, and I'm far from being 71. I hope I get to 71, to be honest with you. So first of all, happy birthday to Alex. Great drummer. And yeah, I mean, I get it. I get these guys that, you know, stop touring and like, you know, are hounded by others to say you have to get back on tour. You gotta keep on doing it. He's probably saying, dude, leave me alone. I'm 71 years old. You know what I mean? Some people have it in them. Some people don't. I think Alex, you know, he's happy with what he did and he's ready to hang it up. My opinion. The good news, however, if any of you out there are Rush fans, like I am, for a while there, it seemed like it was over. You know, Rush is over after the death of Neil Peart. You know, they decided that's it, no more. I respected that. But lately, there's been quite a few rumors that Geddy and Alex want to get back together. And recently, I saw an article specifically stating that Geddy and Alex Lifeson confirm Rush touring plans with new drummer. Confirm. Till now, it's just been rumors. So that is fantastic news. I don't know who the drummer would be. I'm curious to find out who that would be, because those are big shoes to fill. I mean, you know, you're stepping into the shoes of a master drummer. Rush has sold over 40 million albums, you know, worldwide. Canada's most revered rock band by far, I think. And now they want to do it again. So I'm curious to see who that drummer is going to be. And if they go on tour again, I'll probably go watch. I mean, basically what they said is that it's in their DNA. It's you know, it's not in their DNA to stop. They're just going to keep on going. Like the Energizer Bunny. So if you guys know who that drummer is, let me know. I don't know if Geddy Lee's voice has gone, Gene. I don't know, man. I think he can still do it. I think he can still pull it off. Yeah, it won't be, you know, 100%, but give the guy a break. Eddie says Ringo. Yeah, maybe Ringo. No, I don't think so. Not Ringo. If you had to guess who the drummer would be, it's probably going to be like some studio musician that's awesome. Who would you think it would be if you had to guess? I'm curious. I don't have an idea, man. I don't have an idea. Imagine it would be like Dave Grohl or something like that. He probably wouldn't be able to pull all that stuff off. He'd be able to fake it probably, but I don't think he'd be able to pull it all off. Anyways, just wanted to put that out there to excite you guys if you're into Rush. Jason Bonham, I don't know if he'd be able to pull it off, dude. I mean, he's a great drummer. I don't think it would work with Bonham. Chad Smith, thinking. I mean, it depends. I mean, Chad can definitely play a lot of great stuff. Kenny Aronoff, maybe. Maybe. The guy from Dream Theater. Portnoy, maybe. Listen, there's a band here in Montreal called New World Men. It's a cover band. If you're from Montreal, you probably know these guys. let me just pull up their website here. All right, let me just show you something. Free advertisement for this band. So if you're in the local area, these guys, New World Men, is a Rush tribute band. So you have the guitarist here, the drummer here, bass player here. I gotta say, these guys are awesome. I actually bought a guitar from the guitarist here. I actually bought the one of my my Edwards Gold Top from him. But these guys are awesome, specifically the drummer. If you guys watch these guys on YouTube, the drummer, this guy, sounds exactly like Geddy Lee. So he can sing like Geddy Lee, and he can play like Neil Peart. So take a look, New World Men, catch them on YouTube. They have YouTube videos. Take a look and tell me if I'm wrong. They do an awesome job. So he'd probably be able to do it if they were looking for a drummer. He'd probably be able to do it. Definitely not Phil Collins, not now, no, unfortunately not. I think Phil has seen better days. I think his days as a drummer are over, unfortunately. All right, I wanted to, before we get to the poll question, I want to give you guys a little bit of homework. Who's with me? It's not just about playing guitar, it's also about practicing, guys. So I wanted to entice you guys to do something this week that we don't normally do, all right? So take your guitar and we're gonna do a group finger exercise that I'm gonna get you guys to practice over the week. This is what I'd like to do. Whenever I play guitar, I like to do finger exercises. Oftentimes the finger exercises get boring. There's a lot of different ones you can do, but I wanted to share with you guys. So let's try this, okay? Let's try this simple finger exercise. And what we'll do is, I don't have the right pick. I have a thick pick here, but I'll try and do it with this. So this is the finger exercise. I have it on a dirty sound, so I'll work with that, but I'll just mute it so you guys can hear it, okay? So if you do the finger exercise, what we'll do is this. We'll start on the second string here, and we'll do this pattern. It'll be first finger, first, second, third. Then you jump to the first string, first, second, third, or third. When I say third, I mean fourth. So like this. So 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. And then we'll slide it. So we'll do 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Then we'll go backwards. We'll do 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1. So 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Slide, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1. A pretty simple finger exercise. But the key here is to do it cleanly and to do it with a metronome. And to do it all the way up the fretboard till you get to the 12th fret and then work your way back. So if you can do that, I usually have a metronome on my phone. So I usually set the metronome not too fast. Well, in this case, I have it at about 110, which is maybe a little bit fast. But let me see if you can hear that. Here's the metronome. Can you hear that? So the idea is to do this. But you wanna stay with the metronome. Don't go ahead, don't go behind. and then work your way back. And then when you get good at it, you can put it quicker. You can basically go... But I would stay with the metronome until you can get it clean. Because the idea is not necessarily to go fast, it's to go clean and to stay on time with the metronome. So that'll be our little exercise for today. So 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, slide, 4, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, all the way up. So it seems easy. It seems, and to be honest with you, the slower you play, the harder it gets. Break it down and see if you can do that. And then maybe next week we can pump it up a little bit faster, or perhaps try something else. It's hard to do it slow. It's actually harder to do it slow. So let's say I take the metronome here and I put it down to something like 80, which seems fast, but it's actually not that fast. So 80 is this. So that's pretty slow, right? And I'm still wavering. I'm not dead on the beat. Like, you know, you're dead on the beat when you don't hear the metronome anymore when you're playing. So I'm a little bit, you know, I'm either behind a little bit or in front of it a little bit. When you're playing it that slow, it's tricky. The other thing I want to mention, up and down with the pick, not down, 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 up, up, up. You want to do alternate strokes. Like that. Gene says you're playing 160 BPS. No, 80. I'm playing 80, but it's 2, 3, 4. And also, to make it even more challenging, keep your thumb hidden. Don't do this. Put it in the back of your neck. So go. You don't want to see your thumb pop up. All right? Practice that this week, guys. I'm going to start giving you guys exercises. And not only for you, but also for me. So I can actually say that I'm actually practicing instead of just talking all the time. All right, let's go to the poll question now. Since we haven't had an opportunity to answer and see exactly. Gene says, no, you're playing twice for every beat. I'm doing 1. You're right. I'm doing 1 and 1 and 1 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you're right. So what Gene is saying is, if it was actually 1 note per beat, it would be. So Gene is actually right. I'm actually doubling up the notes. So I'm playing instead of playing quarter notes, I'm playing 8 notes. So it's. And playing with a dirty signal, like I am, is actually better, because you can actually hear when you're not playing clean. You can actually hear it better than when you're playing it clean. All right, so anyways, you can play it slower if you want. Play it at 80 if you want, and then work your way up from there. See how it goes. But it has to stay clean. And the idea is, you have to, if you mess up, you got to start over till you can do it up and down the neck clean all the time. And then you can also do it down the neck. You can also go. So that's a little bit more challenging because you're doing all the strings. Then you can work your way up. By the time you get to the 12th fret, you'll be tired. And then you work your way back down. All right, enough of that. Let's go to the poll question and let's see what the poll results are. Let me just pump that up. Pull that up on the screen here. All right, so poll question, 233 votes. All right, so we got a good sampling. What is the maximum wattage amplifier you consider buying today? All right, so number one answer, not surprised, 41% of the voters said 50 watts, which seems right to me. There's still a bigger percentage of people that will go with the 100 watt amps than the lower watt amps. So you got 100 watts. There's 24% of the voters still will go for the 100 watt amplifier. 23% will go for the 25 watts. I would have thought the 25 watt power rating would have gotten more votes, surprisingly, but it doesn't. It's close. It's almost an even split, but it's just a little bit lagging behind. Next, after that, we have 9% of voters that would buy a 5 watt amp, and only 3% would buy a 10 watt amp. So that's quite interesting. There was some interesting comments here I wanted to share. So Vinny's World says, if it has power switching options, then I prefer 100 watts because that would allow for the most flexibility. And that is true. Although I think 50 is plenty also, but yeah, I get it. It makes sense. Gene says, I remember playing house parties using Marshall's SVT 300 watt bass head with a 4x12 and stainless steel double bass Ludwig. Good times. Maxwell said a good 25 watt tube amp with power tube reduction is loud enough to gig, quiet enough to practice, and light enough to carry. Happy days. So I think if you have any trouble with 25 watt amp, again, you could definitely mic it up. And then Jeff says, I don't own anything now over 50 watts with the exception of a Blug amp, the One Mercury. My current gigging amp is a Blackstar St. James EL34 combo, and I use the SAG mode, which is about 30 watts. Alternatives are the Sir Ombre combo, a Victory Sheriff 25, or a cranked 68 Princeton with WGS speaker. It's all about the carry for me now. Gone are the days when I could hug a 4x12 cab up 3 floors. I totally agree with you on that. I'm exactly the same. My back is extremely ruined, extremely weak, and I wouldn't be able to carry a very heavy combo very far these days, unfortunately. So for me too, it's all about convenience. You do want to have power, but it's definitely something about having, the ability to grab and go. And I feel like, some of the heavier amps, especially the combo amps, are not necessarily practical anymore. Yet, this is why I normally I bring just the heads when I go practice, because we do have the cabinets there. So I can just grab a head unit and go to the gig, and actually a small head cabinet like the Marshall, for example, or the Brunetti Pleximan is easy to manage. 50 watts, plug it in, you're good to go. That's usually why I prefer to go with heads as opposed to combo amps. When am I getting that addicted to gear tattoo? I don't know. I don't know. You think it would look good on me? Vinny says, I find 25 watts hard to use in unmiked situations with a drummer in a rehearsal space. The drummer just drowns out everything, and with the amp cranked, the clean sounds horrible. Yeah, it's true. You have to get that if you're playing with a loud band, 25 watts sometimes will not cut it. It's nice to be able to cut above everybody else when you're going into the solo, and sometimes 25 watts is just, it just hits that ceiling. You can't go any further without it just falling apart. Paul says 50 watts are 100% must to balance with the back line when only the singer has a mic. Yeah, I know what you mean, man. The thing is, when you start getting louder, everyone gets louder, and then you need to be louder, So it's the tricky thing where does it stop? It's like you're getting, the other guitarist is louder, so you need to be a little bit louder, and then the bass player cranks it up, then the singer's got to, so it just cascades from there. Eddie says solid state amps are roughly 1/3 the power of the same tube wattage. Yes, agreed. It sounds impressive when you hear like a solid state amp is 200 watts, but it's not the same. Not the same rating. I also heard, guys, and I don't know if you guys heard this or not, and it's funny that last week we talked about the great sell-off. Everybody seems to be selling off their gear. We talked about a few people that, Mark Knopfler. We talked about a few other musicians that were just going through the sell-off. There's somebody else that's doing that this week. So the sell-off continues. The funny thing, though, is that the person selling the guitars this time, in my opinion, is not a rock star. Is actually an actor. So Jason Momoa, we all know Jason. The buff actor. Aquaman. You know who I'm talking about. The cool dude. Anyways, he's auctioning off a collection of Gibson Fender custom shop instruments, including Les Pauls signed by Billy Gibbons and Slash. So these are not vintage instruments. These are just instruments I guess he's picked up or maybe was given. I'm not really sure. But he's auctioning them off. I'm not sure if the auction is just going to him or if it's going to a charity. But basically, he's got a Les Paul signed by Billy Gibbons and Slash. There's a total of 9 instruments that he's going to be selling off. And it includes Fender Nocaster, a 1954 Stratocaster, a 1951 Esquire, and each guitar has been reliced by the company and built specifically for the auction. So that's interesting. New guitars made to look old. And it also includes a custom shop recreation of Billy Gibbons' Pearly Gates. He had a little run of these Pearly Gates guitars. There was, I think, maybe 100 or so that he made, signed. And a replica of Slash's famous Jessica guitar as well. And he's going to be auctioning off these instruments. So I don't know if it's going, I think it's going to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, if I'm not mistaken, which is a nice gesture. And I don't know how much money will be raised by this, but at least it's going to a good cause. The Pearly Gates might be a cool guitar. I'd consider going for that one if I had to choose. Poser guitar sale, says Shane. Well, he's an actor. I don't think he needs the money. I think he's honestly, doing it to raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is a good cause in my opinion. There's, way worse things than that. if it goes to charity, I can't really complain all that much. So what else do you guys looking at getting this week? Anything new on the horizon for you? I don't know if anybody's still interested in grabbing one of those new replicas of the, you know, Slash did come out with his 335 model recently. I don't know if you saw this. Have you guys checked this out? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a custom shop collection. Collector's edition, of course. Everything's custom shop or collector's edition now coming out of Gibson. Custom shop collector's edition of Slash's 1963. This is hollow body guitar 335. It's going to be limited to 50 models because you can't buy this crap forever. And you get it includes a pair of tickets to an exclusive show at Gibson's Nashville headquarters. So this is something that they're going to be making hoopla about, obviously, and I'm sure probably Slash will show up there to promote it, so you probably will be able to see Slash there, and he'll probably be playing the guitar. So I guess this is also coincides with there's an album coming out as well, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, it seems like every other day Gibson is putting out a new limited edition custom shop model. I don't know what the price is going to be. I'm not really sure at this stage. I'm sure it's going to be expensive. It has a Bigsby on it, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest. So if I, you know, even if I was looking at buying a guitar like this, I wouldn't opt for the Bigsby. I think it's just extra weight for no reason on a guitar like that. It looks nice. But again, I don't know the cost. I don't know how much it's going to cost. Oh, wait a minute. If I Google it, thank God there's this thing called Google, right? So let me Google this real quick. And it seems like the guitar will sell for $14,999. Thank God it's not $15,000, right, guys? $14,999. That I can do. 15 would be a penny too much. So, you know, Gibson is saying that it says, which unsurprisingly places it towards the top end of Gibson's price scale, but considerably lower than the likes of some of its flagship collector's edition replicas, most notably the $50,000 Gibson Custom Shop Kirk Hammett Greenie 1959 Les Paul Standard. So that makes you, maybe that makes you feel better. I don't know. So, you know, they're saying, you know, this is a deal. It's not going to cost you 50 G's. It's only going to cost you 15. It's a steal. I don't know. I'm still freaking out over all of this stuff. I think, you know, and the thing is, people will buy the guitar. They will buy it. I don't know. For me, I think it would be a pass. Maybe I'm the only one. Scott Anthony says that I'm considering buying a 52 reissue Telecaster, but haven't completely decided on that particular model yet. What are your thoughts? So, okay, why specifically a 52? Do you like the vintage appointments of the 52? Is that why you want to go for the 52, or you just like the fact that it looks like a vintage guitar? Because there's really nice guitars that they're making that are not necessarily the 52 reissue, that still have the look of a 52, the nice blonde color, the black pickguard, and whatnot, but more modern appointments in terms of neck radius or, you know, neck profile. So, you know, just so I can better understand why you're looking at that one, I have the 52 right there. This is the 52 reissue right there. It's a great guitar if you like the appointments that come with the 52. But there's other choices now. 52 is also a little bit more expensive as well. Vox says he loves vintage Fender necks except for the neck removal to adjust the truss rod. Yes, that's what I was about to say. That's also part of the reason why the 52 that has that issue also. So I don't know if you guys know this. Let me grab the 52. One sec. I'm going to grab the 52. Here we go, 52. So what I'm talking about, and you probably already know this, if you're looking at the 52, you're probably already aware that it doesn't have access to the truss rod. They put a little walnut dowel in there. Fender only started making the truss rod stuff happen here later on. So if you're trying to adjust the neck on this guitar, it's a real pain because you have to pull off the neck completely, then turn the little screw here. Hopefully you get it right, and then put it back on and try it. It's a pain. But, you know, everything else about the guitar is cool. Also, it also has this cap on in the circuit to make it sound a little bit more bassy in the neck originally. A lot of people take that out. I took it out as well. Because back in the day, the guitarists would sometimes do the bass parts as well. So they wanted the neck pickup to be a little bit more bassy. Danielle says, I keeping of a small tube combo, but don't move ahead. Swart and Vintage 47 have old designs with controls and jack at the bottom of the combo amps. I don't know if you wrote that correctly or if you meant to say I'm thinking of a small tube amp. Not really sure what you mean there. So the radius on this is a vintage radius, yes. It's still a very fun guitar to play. I'm not trying to convince you not to get this guitar. I think it's a really fun guitar to play. But if you're just buying it for the look, there's other guitars that will probably be just as good for less money in the Fender lineup with more modern appointments, including the ability to adjust the truss rod here. So I'm just telling you what the options are. Paul says, Tony, the Player Series 52 Telecaster is $1,000 USD off. DL says, what pickups are they? So, of course, these are not the original pickups that came with the 52. The 52 pickups, for me, weren't hot enough. They did a good job of recreating the vintage tone, but I wanted a little bit more bite. So I actually put in another set of pickups in here, and these are Porter pickups. The FMT is a great one, Music and Gear, yes. Another great option there. Some people just don't like the radius, you know, the vintage radius. They want to get more of a modern radius, an extra fret in there. Little things that make the guitar just a little bit more modern. Here you do have the saddles, you know, you have the brass saddles in there. So you do have, you know, you're sharing one brass saddle for 2 strings, which makes it a little bit more tricky with the intonation as well. So you go with a more modern one. You can have independent saddles for the independent strings, right? So that's another option. Lots to consider out there. And the classic vibes are also pretty good at a fraction of the cost that you would be spending on one of these. All right, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up today. Gotta spend time with our moms, right? For you guys out there that are lucky enough still to have your moms around, awesome. So we're gonna wrap it up. I wanna thank you guys for participating in show 207. Made it a lot of fun for me. I hope you guys got some fun out of it today. And I hope you guys are gonna practice the little finger exercise. Don't let me down. I'm gonna ask you guys maybe randomly pick somebody out of the audience next week to show me how they're doing on the finger exercises. We'll see. But, you know, definitely put aside some time to be able to spend some time to practice your guitar. Not just noodle, but actual practice, you know. It's going to make you get better, and it's going to make the instrument a lot more fun. I think it's going to be fantastic if you just keep it up. Don't give up. It's hard at the beginning, but it actually does get better once the fingers start to move. And, you know, you get muscle memory. You know, one more thing under your belt. Eddie, thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the channel. You're awesome. Music and Gear says, great show. I appreciate it. Thanks, Tony, says Ken. Have a great weekend, Ken. See you all next week, guys. Put it on your calendar. Next Sunday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm sure I'll come up with other great things to talk about. Other interesting things, at least. And stay tuned for a new video that's going to drop this week as well. All right? Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, guys. Stay safe. Practice your instruments. And we'll see each other again real soon. Ciao for now.